India's third lunar mission, Chandrayaan-3, is set to launch on the 14th of July. Spacecraft will embark on a journey lasting slightly over a month, with the intended landing near the moon's south pole expected around mid-August. Well, as preparations for the Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft take off and are underway at the Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh, it is important to note that this is India's second attempt to land on the moon's surface. Meanwhile, ISRO chairman S. Somnath has stated that significant improvements have been made to the lander and the rover as extensive tests have been conducted over the last 2 years. We will now decode why this mission is so crucial for India. And we are joined by some of the people who understand this space like no other. Joining us on the show at this point in time is Group Captain V.N. Jha, former Joint Director, DRDO, Senior Scientist. Also joining us on the program is Tapan Mishra, ISRO Scientist. K. Siddhartha, a Scientist as well, joins us on the show. And last but not the least, Dr. Chakravarti, ITM Agnikul Advisor, is also with us on the program. Sonal Garg, Future Talent Research Fellowship holder, also joins us on the show. But before we dive into this debate, let's in fact take a look at what this constitutes and what's at stake and what's actually going in. Well, as you know, this is going to be India's second attempt, and this has taken more than 2 years for preparation. Well, the launch by LVM-3 from the SDSC Sriharikota is slated to take place on the 14th of July. The country is going to be looking forward to this very important and relevant moment. It consists of indigenous propulsion module, a lander and a rover. Like I said in my opening monologue, that the rover has gone through major improvements. And of course, the propulsion module will carry the lander and rover till 100 kilometers of the lunar orbit. And after that, obviously, there's going to be more technical landing coordination which will be required. The lander will deploy the rover, which will carry out analysis of the lunar surface. That's exactly where the problem occurred last time as well. And this time we are hoping, and we are pretty confident, it is something that we have gotten over. And to demonstrate tech required for the interplanetary missions, this is going to be an important objective of this mission. Remember, the last time that India tried, the whole world was watching where we went wrong and what was the consensus in terms of our strategy being changed. Other objectives being that this is also to demonstrate safe and soft landing on the lunar surface. Remember, only a few countries have made this attempt. Only a few countries have been able to gauge what exactly lies on the lunar surface. Of course, another objective is to demonstrate the rover on the moon and how skillfully and adroitly it will be able to gather data, gather samples, and report back to Sriharikota as to where we stand and how superb and superior this technology is. To conduct in situ scientific experiments as well is going to be one of the major priorities of this mission, which has always been the case. I'm going to take a question to Mr. Siddhartha. Sir, we have tried this before. We are trying it again. We spoke extensively. I remember you gave us, some important and significant insights into why this mission was important, considering that India is not only always focusing on its, defense power, but its soft power as well. How do you think these improvements are likely to reflect on the 14th of July when this mission is kicked off?
Thank you, Vinitji. Thank you so much to be with you. Essentially, I see it from three perspectives. The first perspective is a global geopolitical perspective. The second is a technical perspective. And the third perspective is going to be the economic perspective. Now, picking up technically, the changes in the design that have been brought up in the whole of the sequence is that the legs of the lander has been strengthened. That is much more stronger right now than it has been before. The second is we have incorporated design of failure-based design in the sense that what are the areas that are likely to fail and under which conditions is it that they are going to fail and how is it that we are going to be responding to it. Our response to it has been in terms of the software. Our response to it has been in making it sturdy. Our response has been in terms of the design modification. Instead of the 5 central nozzle that we had in lander, we are now going to be having four of them, so that the fall is going to be synchronized. The third part is associated with all of this built-in backup by way of redundancy in terms of if one thing fails, there is another one, this another one fails, there is another one of sorts. And then to cap it all, when you actually go onto land in that place and the dust particles emanate from it, then that is also going to be taken care of it at a 3 meter per second, and that is a reasonable amount. That is technically, it is good. Geopolitically, if you see it, then you find that United States, Ukraine, Russia, China, all of them are going to be at loggerheads. So none of them going to be aligned with each other in any manner possible. And that the fate of the space station completely hangs in balance. And any type of a cooperation, one can imagine that could have taken place between USA and Russia not existing, USA and China not existing. China and Russia may go on to be, but then by and large, India is going to be having a virgin field as far as this aspect is going to be concerned. So India is in a very prime position. Economically, if you're going to see it, there are two aspects. The first is it has already had an alliance with Artemis on how exactly human beings can be transported to moon. And also, as you want to see it, space is a booming industry. Not only that, Indian space industry has seen the greatest number of startups participating in it, and because they are going to be participating in it, and it is going to be the cheapest space project in the whole of the world, it is going to go for leapfrogging, and that is the basic reason that we had had so much amount of clamor associated with it. Internationally, nationally, technically, geopolitically, there can't be a better situation other than that to launch this satellite from India.
All right. Dr. VN Jha? Dr. VN Jha?
Yes, please go ahead.
Right. Well, it was a heartbreak the last time it didn't happen. But, when you've come back after, a gap of 2 years and more, this has more of a likelihood of, being a permanent feature in terms of India's space and lunar expedition prowess.
Well, Vineet, to be very frank, we were on your channel last time when
Yes.
the live streaming was going on of the landing. Landing was by and large, everything was absolutely copybook type. Till the time that the 1.2 kilometers above the surface of the lunar surface, the problems happened. Till that time, everything was copybook. Look, Chandrayaan 2 launch, it went to the moon. The orbiter is still orbiting the polar orbit of moon, and this is likely to continue. So that was an absolute success. Thereafter, after the Vikram, that is the lander, separated out from the orbiter, it came absolutely copybook style, blink by blink. And most of us, we were wondering whether we are imagining this sort of copybook thing or what is happening. So absolutely, it was a precision, except that last moment. And that last moment things were the thing what now ISRO has taken care of. That means they have now given additional fuel to it, additional thrust through two nozzles motor, and they have given the additional sensors which could actually sense the height above the surface. And that is very crucial. Right now, they have given at least alternative corollary parameters. One is the radio sensor, another is the laser sensor of the altitude. All these things have been incorporated. And the best thing, that they have now also done the FMECA, what we call it in the design. That is the failure mode effect and criticality analysis. That should, from the component level to subsystem level to the system level, should anything fail, what is the most precarious? And there, the redundancy has been given now in this particular model. So we are fairly confident that it is going to be as precision as it was last time, and the touchdown will be smooth. In science, there is nothing called science and technology. There is nothing called failure or success. If something goes wrong, it goes wrong. That is the aviation word everyone knows. In any technical, very high-tech mission, things can go wrong. but the amount of effort and the simulations and the trials, tests and trial that ISRO has done onto this is phenomenal. So we are pretty sure that it is going to be a success. And mind you, this time they have chosen a space, a location of touchdown, which is not exactly the polar 90-degree from the azimuth. It is somewhere around 69 degree or so. So that's a very large plane surface on the moon, as has been tracked by the orbiter, which is already there. So they have done the 3D analysis of that. It is supposed to be a plane surface of fairly high length and the width, and that is where the touchdown is going to be there. So we are pretty sure that it is going to be a very successful mission on 14th when it all takes off, Vineet.
It's going to be definitely a big mission. In fact, let's also show you some salient and important, interesting facts about this particular mission, which are definitely going to pique your interest on why this mission is important and what are some of the nuances that we all should be, in fact, focusing on. Well, number one, the Chandrayaan 3 mission costs somewhere around 73 million US dollars. And this is something to be very, very happy about, because similar missions have been conducted in China, in the United States and other countries as well. And the costs incurred by those agencies was much, much higher, many folds rather. Number two, the mission's lifespan is 1 lunar day or 14 Earth days. Obviously, it's a different cycle when you talk about the rotation of the sun, so that is why that aspect also comes in. It aims to land near the moon's south pole, a feat which hasn't been accomplished yet. Yes, that's true. This was also something which was tried last time, and this is something which has not been tried by any other countries before in the past as well. India's second attempt to soft land a lander and a rover on a lunar surface. The first time around, there were some challenges, there were some lacunas and gaps, but we are hopeful that they will be ironed out this time around. The moon lander is named Vikram and rover is named Pragyan. Vikram, of course, after Vikram Sarabhai, the man who started it all and the man who was responsible for propelling India's space mission to the next stratosphere. The total weight of the entire configuration is 3,900 kg, about little over 4 tons. So that is something which definitely requires a lot of calibration. Technically, the propulsion module weighs around 2,141 kilograms, while the lander and the rover weigh somewhere close to 1,752 kilograms. Of course, they will detach, they will have their own integrity to take care of. The propulsion module will serve as a communications relay satellite as well, through which all the data is going to be processed, all the data is going to be relayed back on Earth. The lander consists of a bi-propellant propulsion system, which definitely allows it to have more strength and more power, and basically bifurcate the source of power in case there are any issues. The rover is powered by the solar energy and only communicates with the lander. So this interdependency is obvious and intentional at the same time as well. Mr. Siddhartha, I'm going to come back to you, sir. So these, salient features, these points not only make this mission worthwhile noticing, but the one thing that I would like to point out is the cost which has been associated with this mission. Even when it comes to India, pushing out satellites for other countries and other companies from outside of our nation, the cost has been a big factor. It's also been a big achievement.
Indeed, that's correct. The biggest advantage of India in the space sector has been the rate and the cost associated with it. Now, that is because of, first is the manpower. The second is the type of zeal that you are going to be associated with it. The third is the technicality associated with all the people who have been trained in different institutions and the pour themselves in such a manner. Now, as far as the overall cost is concerned, that India has curbed it considerably. That is, in terms of logistics, in terms of design, in terms of materials, and in terms of accumulation and accumulation as well, it has come down considerably. Now, that goes on to make India as one of these countries, the country which will go on to target Africa. Now, we have already started targeting Southeast Asia, and then Africa is going to be the next country when we're going to take the services of it. There will be the whole of Africa is waiting to be explored. The whole of Latin America, other than Argentina, I can go to say, is waiting to be explored in this case. And that will go on to mean that India will go on to become a space hub all in all, like an aviation hub that we have in Dubai. Second is the programs associated with human being taking to space will go on to become cheaper. And if it is going to be cheaper, and of course it is going to be, then India will go on to become the favorite destination for the space tourists as well. And to cap it all, the forward and the backward linkage it has formed in India, and that is very important. Forward linkage associated with the type of services that is going to be giving to it. The backward linkage associated with how many products and other things that it can go to garner and gather from different type of industries, different type of activities that will go to spur in the type of economic activity unforeseen in the country and unforeseen in any country for that matter. This is largely because it is going to spur up, you will go on to find the knowledge mapping of the world. It will go on to spur up the entire of the remote sensing aspect, which is already going to be there. It is going to be linkages a variety of types, education in the country, and imagine if it is going to be, in this case, all the sectors that are going to get benefited of it, out of it, then India, it is not going to be a doubtful case that India will go on to realize its $1 trillion dream very, very soon. And that will go on to mean that space technology is going to be one of those type of technologies by way of which United States was able to brand itself in 1969 when it launched moon. India will reach the same position. So Atmanirbhar Bharat, space technology, and Vasudha Kutumbakam, the whole of Vishwa Guru status, they are going to be in for a very, very good company.
Let me also rope in Mr. Tapan Mishra. Mr. Mishra, I hope you can hear me, sir. Mr. Mishra? Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Sir, from what we know that the Chandrayaan 3 has been designed to, accommodate more fuel. It will give it, more time and ability to travel farther, have more dispersion, or move to an alternate landing. This has obviously been done because of the first time around, and the learnings that came from the first time we were not able to complete this mission.
Oh yes, it has two changes. One, as we pointed out, originally actually Chandrayaan 2 lander had 4 engines, because we normally usually all landers have only one engine, and that is of a 3 to 4 kilonewton. But since we don't have that powerful engine, so we originally designed in Chandrayaan 2 lander itself with a 800 Newton engine. So now when you have 4 engines, there is a stability issues are there, and the control system, because the larger the power of the engine, more the errors in the thrust control. So that is the control system. So that time, there was some last moment thought process. There was a 5th engine was added at the center, and because 5 engines are operating, they consume more fuel. So we really don't know exactly what happened, because we could not spot at the end of whether it landed or crash landed or what happened finally, or it got adjusted the fuel and then it went haywire, but it could not be imaged also further. So that, but the absence of proof is not a proof of absence. So that is all, that we lost it out. But though we don't know exactly what happened, but afterwards, from that learning, that from analysis they must have found out, they have dispensed with the 5th engine, because the more than engines, the more will be the control system complexities. So this, and then they have also carried a 300 kg extra fuel. Whether the last time, whether fuel got adjusted and all, that also couldn't be determined. So if you, before reaching, if you exhaust the fuel, that happens. Even in last April, the Japanese lander had this same effect. It exhausted fuel before even up to 1.5 kilometer, it exhausted the fuel. That happened to the Israeli landers. So this sort of thing happened. So this time they have put an extra fuel of 300 kg, and they have also additional provision for wandering around a 60-meter extra dia area.
Right.
So that they can find out the perfect spot and land it. And though for the country is very emotionally attached, for ISRO every space mission is equally important and equally can go wrong, because ultimately it is the probability of success is always in 90 to 99.9. There is a 6.1% probability of why things go wrong.
Absolutely. Those probabilities are always there.
Probabilities are there, and the luck is not in the side. It can happen.
Right, sir. You're absolutely right. I'm going to turn over to my colleague Pia, who's going to take us through some of the details of the Chandrayaan 3 and how it is going to be carrying the payloads that it always does. Pia, over to you.
Indeed, Vineet. Let's in fact have a look at the payloads of Chandrayaan 3. The first payload is the spectropolarimetry of habitable planet Earth, which shall be used to discover exoplanets. This will be carried, of course, by the propulsion module. Remember, there are three parts to the entire Chandrayaan 3 mission. That is the propulsion module, the lander and the rover. Meanwhile, talking about the lander will in fact carry 4 payloads, one of which is the radio anatomy of moon-bound hypersensitive ionosphere and atmosphere. This is, of course, one of the key payloads of the lander. Meanwhile, let's take a look at another payload of the lander. If our crew could just flash it on the screen. Exactly. Here it is. Chandra's surface thermophysical experiment will also be carried by the lander to measure thermal conductivity. This is, of course, the second payload which will be carried by the lander. Let's in fact take a look at the next payload, which is called the Instrument for Lunar Seismic Activity. As the name suggests, it will measure seismicity around the landing site. Of course, India is looking at landing at the South Pole of the moon, a feat which has never been accomplished by any other country in the world. In fact, apart from this, a laser retroreflector array will also be carried to understand the dynamics of the moon's surface. Apart from that, let's have a look at what the rover will carry. The rover will carry an alpha particle X-ray spectrometer and also a laser-induced breakdown spectroscope to provide elemental analysis of the lunar surface. So this is what exactly Chandrayaan 3 will be carrying. It will also be conducting in situ scientific experiments on the moon. Over to you, Vineet.
Right, Pia, thank you for that exhaustive analysis of what this payload is going to be about and what it is likely to accomplish. Dr. Chakravarti, I'd like to come to you, sir, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Well, we've spoken about what this entails, but the challenges are aplenty. In comparison and in juxtaposition to what could not happen in 2019, how do you think this time around this mission is better prepared to avert any kind of a failure or rather remote chances of any failure?
No, I think ISRO has actually taken significant strides and pains to make sure that the problem that they encountered at the last minute or even less than minute is actually a long time in these things. The last second rather, when the touchdown happened with those 4 engines that was talked about before. So they have done enormous amount of what we can colloquially call as rehearsals, if you will, in order to be able to make sure that this doesn't happen. And it's kind of like Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it goes wrong, particularly in space, because you need to have 100% accuracy in what you're doing, with about 1 million parts that have to work together. And what could go wrong went wrong that time. But there are several failure scenarios that are played out and they have been considered. I think it's been about 4 years. So there's a lot of time that's been spent in trying to make sure that Chandrayaan 3 will actually be a success.
Right, a lot of time has been spent. Sonal Garg, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can.
Well, the ISRO chief also went on to say that they looked at many failures, the algorithm failure, the engine failure, the sensor failure, the velocity improvement. All of these things have been spent a considerable amount of time to make sure that, this mission is not only set out to accomplish what it does, but also sets the path for more missions which are similar in nature in the future.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, especially the part where we're carrying the propulsion module payload, the shape, which is going to look at the more reflected light towards getting us through with the exoplanets. This is actually a big development into the space industry because NASA actually holds up another mission. They do Gaia missions every year and they hold seminars and workshop over it. And they're actually looking into the exoplanets more than what we have so far. So this would actually empower us more and encourage even students to go for the data releases and do some data analysis themselves to figure out what exactly can be done within the exoplanet schemes.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.